Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Building RYLOTH and Lego. So thank you so much for your support for the first episode. I haven't really uploaded a video in a while, so I didn't really know exactly how well I was going to do. But in this week's, we are going to be primarily focusing on rock work, like I said. But I also interspliced it with some other parts of the build, so I just didn't get burnt down. So this is a lot of repetitive rock work that I'm going to have to do with this mock. So we have a little work on the bridge, kind of the bridge emitter area, as well as some other little smaller details. So let's get into this next episode of Building RYLOTH. So I kind of want to talk over this time lapse and walk you through my thought process of building this rock work. So I'm starting off here using some plate modifiers to get some angled portions of the rock work. And I'm starting off with the dark tan, and I'm slowly making my way through the gradient, like I mentioned in the previous episode. The dark tan to the medium nougat and the dark orange. I was really only able to get kind of one section of the medium nougat and the dark orange in this kind of side of the rock work compared to the other side, which I was able to get kind of like 2 seconds, but I should be able to include it elsewhere in the rock work. And coming up here, you'll kind of see me start to struggle a little bit with some of the angled portions once I get into the dark tan area again. Like right now, I kind of spent a bit of time over here and trying to mess with exactly how I want it to work with the angled portions. And I try to include one of those brown hoses that I used in the previous episode to get some like tree branches, and I just unfortunately couldn't figure out a way to include it. So I decided I just put in some of those olive green leaf pieces. Before I continue on any more rock work, I did want to focus on the bridge and kind of explain a bit more about how I'm achieving this. I didn't really go into as much depth as I wanted to in the first update. So as you can see, this bridge is just straight up connected into these studs with a few gaps to get the lights in there. And these studs are connected to some brackets, as well as this inverted bracket right here, which connects to these main pillars. And I'm making use of a little bit of technique right here to kind of hold it in as much as it possibly can, and obviously still getting a little bit of sag with it. So there are a few options that I want to try to minimize that sag. One of the things is, well, going forward, you need to get that same kind of pattern that I have on the bottom right here. Basically, it's going to be only like one brick thick. So that's going to go on top of here. But I was thinking if I could connect that to the bridge itself and then have that portion of it connect somewhere over here, maybe use a little bit of technique. I could maybe try to pull the bridge up a little bit and hopefully minimize a little bit more of that sag, if that makes any sense. So what was originally going to be a pretty simple just mirroring of the bottom ended up being a lot more complicated, because unfortunately that one arch piece I used in dark blue is quite expensive, and there's quite a few dark blue accents on the actual kind of structure surrounding the bridge. So I needed to kind of come up with a different solution, and luckily there are rounded plates and tiles that are the same angle as that arch piece. So I was able to kind of make use of those, but then that created some other complications. So I had to make some intricate snot work using a lot of different panels. So I'm pretty happy with how this is, because I had to make the transition between the plates and then this arch piece right here. But you can see how there's a little gap right there, and that's just able to slide in right there using those 1x1 panels. Also, there's a slight gap right there. You might be able to see, which again, just don't think I'll be able to fix. There's really no way to do it with the parts available in dark blue. I'm particularly really happy with this area right here. There is a small gap right there that I needed to fit something in. So I used this 1x2 tile. I was able to slide that right into place, but of course it overlaps a little bit. So I made use of that 1x1 panel right there to kind of cover that up. And you can see here on the completed side that you can't see any of it. I also needed to put a support underneath the bridge so that it didn't sag. I unfortunately don't think there's really going to be any way to minimize the sag without a support. So it's looking like that there's going to have to be this clear support, which doesn't look too bad. I think it still works pretty well. But I wish I could have figured out a way to do it without the support. The most obvious idea is to have like some sort of interior structure within the bridge, but since it's like transparent, there's really no way to do that. So this area is kind of what it's supposed to look like once it's finished. I'll obviously mirror that onto the other side. But I think that's enough for this week. I'm going to get back to the rock work. Like I said in the last episode, there's going to be a lot of rock work this week. So I'm hopefully trying to get most of this section done. So I actually ended up adding just a little bit of texturing onto the bridge emitter area. I'm also working on the black border a bit, how the transition is going to be from the back black base up to where it's going to be higher up. So I don't want to do like just a 90-degree angle. That's a little boring. So I'm going to have this constant incline. And this is one of my new favorite pieces of knowledge, is that this 1x2 cheese grater slope that you see right here, the same angle as these larger 1x2 slopes. So they meld together very well when you're trying to get something at an angle. So I just have that attached edge clip right there. I'll make that look nice later. Lastly, I did kind of like another row of rock work, kind of like how it was over here when at the beginning, kind of this height, but then I kind of like doubled that height. And yeah, definitely still looking good. It's just very repetitive, so I'm trying to break it up with doing other stuff here and there. But this is what it's looking like right now. I'm really happy, especially like this area I really like. I think all the colors are working really well together. I also got the pieces in to build up 4 more of these ATRTs in their final design, so I'm really happy with those. I think they look nice. And then also I have 2 blurgs now as well. I finalized those designs. So I have a dark bluish gray one and a light bluish gray one. Hopefully I'll get probably a couple more, at least doubling the amount. I'm not sure how many I'm going to have at the end of the day. So I wanted to go back and finish up the majority of this rock work and kind of work on how the rock work is going to meet with kind of the grassy area of the main battlefield. And specifically, I'm going to be starting with olive green, and then after a little bit I'll introduce the sand green and then possibly the dark green. Still don't know if I'm going to utilize the dark green yet, but I also wanted to talk about how exactly I'm building up this rock work and the pieces that I'm using. So specifically, I'm not using any of like 2x slopes. It's specifically the 1x slopes, like the 1x1, 1x2, 1x3, and 1x4 slope. I'm making use of both curved slopes and regular slopes, but specifically I don't want to use 2x slopes because they're just too blocky and don't give up that natural feel that I really want to evoke with this rock work. There's something that I wanted to mention in the previous episode, but I forgot to, that this mock is technically a remake of like my second ever mock I made like years and years back. If I can find an image of it, I'll put it up on screen. But this is technically a remake of that mock, since I kind of built the same area all those years ago before I even started YouTube. And it's something I really want to do more of, kind of remaking my old mocks to see how far I've come. You know, how much my building skills have evolved and how my approach to mocks have changed over time. But in the next episode, I'm going to be doing a lot of rock work. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of rock work that I'll have to do for this mock. But I want to intersplice that with some other different things, so I might end up starting on kind of like the main battlefield area, a little bit of that terrain with the olive green and the sand green, and kind of how the rock work or the bridge emitter area is going to meet with the terrain. So I might start messing with that a little bit, as well as some other little things. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode of Building RYLOTH. Have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.